We are now recording. Okay. We're happy enough then. I'll kick off. I'm going to try and see how many football puns I can get in here between between now and the end of this session. So yeah. Okay. Listen, good afternoon, everyone, and thank you very much for joining us, part of the program here for Ulster University's Future Skills Week. It gives me amazing pleasure to welcome to the session today Marissa Callaghan, Sarah McFadden, and Julie Nelson, three members of the history making Northern Ireland senior women's football squad. I know that in some of the communications that I put out, you guys, that I did say, look, you don't have to be a football fanatic to both enjoy and benefit from today's session. I'm entirely confident that we can all learn from both Julie, Marissa, and Sarah's stories, and there will be, I'm sure, plenty of takeaways that we can apply to our own circumstances to enable us to better strive and aim and to achieve both our own personal and professional goals. That's pun number two. Okay. I would just like to say before we actually start on a handover, um, uh, just to the ladies here, I want to both recognise and importantly put into context just what a mammoth and magnificent achievement this is for the Northern Ireland women's squad so far. So just very briefly, the group stages, 47 teams took part, looking to get 15 places in the Euro finals. England, as the host, got a bye ball. Another pun there. 12 automatically qualified through the group stages, but of course, Northern Ireland, we had to do it the hard way, and the ladies, as the runners up in Group C, then had to go into the playoffs for three of the remaining spots. I won't do a match by match roundup, but suffice to say, and I'm confident that the ladies will agree with me here that there were a few ups and downs along the way in terms of getting to the playoffs before that historic 2-0 defeat of Ukraine and the Northern Ireland team going through on a 4-1 aggregate. Kenny Shields, the Northern Ireland manager, hyperbole, is in Kenny's dictionary, and he did say that it was the best ever sporting achievement in the UK, and many people would absolutely agree with him. And again, just to put it in context, a lot of the squad are amateur players, 16 of them, playing in the Irish League, and they're playing against players, who play for some of the top teams in Europe. And I think our joint first ministerial statement sort of said it all. After that historic win and the progression through the group stages to the finals, the joint statement said that this is a team that dared to dream big, and through their hard work, determination, and amazing talent have made those dreams come true. And they're an inspiration to us all and can show us what actually can be achieved then when we do aim high. And this is the Future Skills Week. This is about having that belief, the dream big, the aspire, and to achieve even when there are knockbacks. So on that note, I would like to hand over to the panel and ask them then just to briefly tell us a bit about themselves, the journey so far, where they are now, and again looking ahead, especially in terms of when it comes to next July. So I don't know if you have an order you wish to go in, ladies. Is it the captain first or anything like that? What way are we doing it?
Go ahead, you can start it.
Start us off. So I'm Julie Nelson. I actually work here at Ulster University. I'm employed down in the Sports Centre in the Jordanstown campus. So I'll do a brief summary, because if I go through my whole life story, we'll be here for the full hour. So I'll give you a brief summary. Kind of going up through school, I didn't really know what I wanted to do. I did my A-levels. I'd applied a couple of different universities, some here and some across the water. And I had applied to do physio and didn't get the grades that I needed to do physio. And I had applied for a couple of sports science courses as well. So went to Brunel in London for the year, absolutely hated the experience and wanted to come home. Was going to hopefully transfer back to Jordanstown, but I had missed the UCAS deadline and was going to have to sit out of university then for a year. In the middle of that, then I got an opportunity to go to America on a scholarship for one semester, which wasn't anything that I really had taken seriously before as a consideration, and went there for 1 year, ended up staying for 3 because I loved it so much. And then graduated from there, came home. Actually, as part of my degree there, I was able to do a placement here at the university in Georgetown for 6 weeks. So that's kind of how I got my foot in the door here in the sports centre in Georgetown, and kind of kept working here on a casual basis in between all my travels, which then helped me get my full-time job, obviously, that I have now. And I came home from America. I went to Leeds Metropolitan University, which is now Leeds Carnegie. Went on a scholarship there, got a master's degree, and then through Sarah, got an opportunity after that to go and play in Iceland. So I played a couple of seasons in Iceland. I've played in Everton in England, played in Glasgow City in Scotland, played for Durham Ladies, and then came back home. I think I'm home now 6 years, back playing for Crusaders, who have been my club kind of since I was 16, on and off between all my travels. So that's kind of a summary of my journey. I made my Northern Ireland debut back in 2004, and have been playing for the senior team ever since. And kind of another thing that happened, which Sarah's also experienced as well, and quite a few of her players at the moment, unfortunately, are going through. I had an ACL injury rupture whenever I was 19 as well, so I had to go through that process and kind of rehab for. Well, I was out of the game 13 months in total with that, so that's kind of another element, you know, another ups and another down kind of in your career that I've had to overcome. So that's a brief summary from me.
Okay, I'll go next, sir. Mine is a little bit more strict. Not basically started playing when I was very young. Sorry, my name's Marissa Callaghan. I work at the Irish Football Association. I'm employed full-time as girls participation officer. So my role is to try and encourage young girls to get involved in the game and kind of grow the participation at a very early age. So I'm lucky enough to be able to inspire the young girls through my job and also through my playing career. And just to give you a short summary, basically I started playing football very young, you know, in the street with the boys. There wasn't many opportunities back then for young girls to play in teams. So it wasn't until I was 13 that I actually started to play competitively at 11-side football. And this year is actually my 20th season with the club. I've been at the club since I was 13. So we've had lots of ups and downs kind of along the way. And when I was 18, I got an opportunity to go to America on a scholarship, the same as Julie, and I went there for 2 years. And when I come home, I went back to the University of Ulster to study a foundation degree in sports coaching. I knew at a very young age that I wanted to go into coaching, and from being back from America, I began the pathway of becoming a coach, and I'm lucky enough now to be employed at the Irish FA and be employed in football in a full-time capacity. So, and also I made my debut in 2010 for the seniors, and I kind of dipped in and out for a few years, but I'm on my 64th cap now, and hopefully I'll have a few more to go.
So mine's probably a combination of both, like Marissa's and Julie's. So I'm Sarah McFadden. I live in Newcastle in England. I'm a further education teacher, further education in college, so I'm teaching full-time there as well as playing part-time for Durham Women. So I grew up in Ballachy in Northern Ireland, so there was really no opportunity in Ballachy to do anything, never mind play football. So luckily when I was about 13, 14, I started playing football at Meola. Meola started a lovely ladies team, so I started playing football there. And from then it really just grew. So I got picked up by Ballymena. So I used to jump on the 127 up and down to Ballymena every single night. And then somebody used to leave me halfway back home. And I did that for 3-4 years before I ended up doing the same as what Julie and Marissa did. And at 18, then I got chosen to go to America. So when I went to America, I did my 4 years like Julie had done. And then when we finished, there's no opportunity still for us because we're a lot older than the kids coming through now. So it was always trying to find an opportunity. And luckily, one of the other girls on the team, Ashley Hutton, had went to Iceland. So she, through who you know, Ashley then got me to go to Iceland. So I went to Iceland for 3-4 summers, and we played played like in a professional league out there, and that was like a really good opportunity at that time for us because we were able to play as like full-time footballers, so it was great. And then from that, I was lucky enough that I got like picked up by Sunderland women we were in the old Premier League at the time, and they'd sorted out a scholarship for me to do my masters at Northumbria, so a bit like what Julie had done at Leeds Carnegie. So I ended up doing that. Stayed at Sunderland for 5 years. Got a wee bit too much because we were playing in the top league in England as well as teaching full time. So on a Wednesday night, I used to have to go to Chelsea away, which is, if anybody's ever been in Newcastle, you know, it's a good 6 hours from London. So it was Chelsea away on a Wednesday night and then a full day teaching on a Thursday. So after a year of that, I thought, I think I'm going to have to drop a level. So I've ended up joining Durham, and I've been there for the last 5 years, and it's been amazing. Throughout all that, then I've been lucky enough to be able to come home back and forth to play for Northern Ireland, and I've been doing that ever since 2005 with the seniors, and I'm on about 77 caps now, I think. So I'm hoping that I can maybe reach the milestone of 100 like Julie and Ashley one day. But that's one of the things that keeps us going now, that we are getting closer to it, because 20 years in women's football is a long time. So that's one of the main things, but that's my journey.
Thank you very much, ladies. Whoa, let's put ourselves on mute if we're not speaking. I just got the eardrum blown off me there. No, listen, thank you very much. That's it's really great to kind of hear the sort of diverse, different backgrounds in relation to, you know, I suppose the trials and the tribulations and the kind of happenstance, but that kind of passion that's always been there for the game, and something, you know, in the background that's been happening in terms of that. Looking forward, then the draw, I believe, is the 28th of October. What's the hope at this stage in terms of which pool you go into? I have about a million questions, so if other people have questions, don't let me hog this. Okay.
Norman, no matter who we get, you know, we know it's going to be a massive challenge for us. I think the next closest team in the world rankings to us is Russia, that have made it through to the finals, and I think they're 25th in the world, and currently we're sitting at 48, you know, so I think that just shows kind of the magnitude of the achievement that it is even for us to qualify for our first ever major finals. And you know, it's been 15, 17 years in the making. This hasn't just happened overnight, and you know, there's been a lot of people involved throughout that period, and you know, it's as much for them as it is for everybody else, players and staff. And you know, there's been a lot of hard work and determination required. And you know, back whenever we started, like we had to pay to go to our first international tournament. You know, whereas now, thankfully, we're not in that position, and the game's progressed on, you know, over those last 17 years, which is fantastic to see. And go on to the Euros next summer. The opening game of England's game would be at Old Trafford with a capacity crowd, most likely of 70,000 people. So as much as, yes, that would be probably a very difficult challenge for us, it's probably would be even more special to play the host nation, I think, you know, at our first ever major tournament. But regardless, you know, the plans are in place for this to be the biggest women's European championship. You know, that they're hoping to sell over 700,000 tickets, which would be amazing. And hopefully they manage to sell out all the stadiums, COVID permitting, of course. And you know, we get a lot of the Green and White Army coming across to follow us as well.
I can't wait, personally speaking. I think it's going to be absolutely massive for Northern Ireland. I think we'll need it by this time next summer to have something to get behind. I mean, clearly, you know, yes, you're the underdogs. We all know that in terms of obviously the rankings, but you know, that kind of that grit and determination in relation to kind of being the underdogs, and that kind of commitment and enthusiasm. I mean, if you take the kind of the first game even against Norway, many people had sort of said, you know, that the heads had dropped at that stage, but you guys didn't. The heads didn't drop. You know, if anything, it kind of spurred you on to play even better and really kind of, you know, seem to enthuse you. And I think, you know, for the people listening, and, you know, for our students, there will be curveballs in life, and there will be disappointments, and there will be failures. And we sort of try and instill in them, it's, you know, failing is that first attempt in learning. How do you guys pick yourselves up after, some of those curveballs or those defeats?
Norman, I would just like to come in here and just look back at kind of our journey the past couple of years. Like before, we've had a rough ride, before these qualifiers come up, and we were fighting it tough to win games. We were fighting it tough to compete, and no one's fault. It was just we had kind of set up that there was no one really focused on the senior women and focused on getting results and focused on making us the best we could possibly be. Sorry. But in 2019, the IFA decided that they wanted to get a management team in that they focused solely on the senior women, and that's when Kenny and Dean come into the squad. At that stage, for myself personally, I was at a stage where I was deciding whether I actually wanted to continue to play, not even just for club and international, but it was a time for me that I wasn't enjoying football anymore, and I actually thought about stepping away from it. But just with struggles with club and family and a lot of things was going on at that time. My partner just gave birth to my young son, and there was lots of things happening. But Kenny and Dean and the rest of the guys came in June 2019 and just completely instilled a love of the game again. I know personally for myself and a lot of other members of the squad, a little fire was ignited again. He came in the first day and he wrote the word trust on the board, and he basically put his arm around us all and says, come with me, trust me, I will trust you if you trust me, and come with me, and we'll go on this journey together. And he instilled this amazing belief individually and collectively as a squad. He single-handedly changed our mindset to let's not concede, to let's go out and win a game. And those early games with Norway and Wales, especially the two Norway games, Kenny came in and he was completely changing the way we were playing. Instead of us, 11 behind the ball, it was, centre halves get on the ball and let's play through the thirds and let's go and score goals. And so against Norway, we were still just trying to kind of figure out that way of playing, and we were learning off each other and learning off him. So yes, it was two massive defeats. We could beat twice 6-0 by an unbelievable opponent, but we learned so much about that ourselves. And we actually, the stats in that game, the way we kept the ball was, it was almost 50-50 at times, So from that game, it instilled a lot of belief that we could go on and beat big teams. And the two Wales games, we went out and got 2 draws, and I think the goal against that Ashley Hutton scored away against Wales was the moment that we started to believe we could do this. We could make it to the playoffs. But just to sum it up, sometimes in life you do come at a crossroads and you have to make a decision. And lucky for me, Kenny Shields came on board with the Northern Ireland team and completely instilled that little fire again, and give me my love for football back. And thank God I stuck around, because we have had the most incredible 2 years. Girls, I know you can agree with me. Now, don't get me wrong, we've had another amazing journey from we all started internationally, and we love playing for Northern Ireland. But I know I've learned so much about myself in terms of who I am as a person, and what how I can kind of motivate myself both on and off the pitch. So yeah, my message would be just never give up, and when you're at that crossroads, bring people in and speak to people, and you never know, you might get a Kenny Shields that'll come in and change your life.
I just did okay, and again, this is me being sort of fanboy. Thinking about walking away to scoring the goal against Ukraine, can you describe how that felt?
I can't, and you know what? I've actually thought so much about this, and I'm a true believer that if you work hard enough for something, good things happen. And I, at the start when Kenny came in, I wasn't making this. I was in the squad obviously, but I wasn't making the starting 11, and that that was tough for me because I had started so many games previously to him coming in, but at the same time, it made me become a better person and a better player because I had to go and look at myself. I had to first of all, believe that I was good enough to get in the starting 11. And when I started to believe that, then I went out and I worked at it and I worked hard and I worked so hard to get myself in the team. And, you know, the most important game of my whole career was them 2 games, the playoff games against Ukraine. And the second game at home, I scored the goal. And I just truly believe because, you know, I worked for that. I worked my ass off for 2 years to get in that squad. And, you know, just things happen for a reason. And yeah, like it was, I actually, when we went into huddle and we scored, I cried because it was just an amazing moment. And I knew at that stage that there was no way that Ukraine was going to come back and that was us into the finals. So yeah, it's just been a crazy 2 years, like amazing ups, amazing downs, and just everything in between.
I think that night there were a lot of big, hard-grown men around Northern Ireland shedding tears too, Marissa. So yeah, you certainly weren't the only one. I'll tell you that for nothing. So Julie, then sort of Marissa sort of mentioned there about Kenny coming in and that sort of change in management and that. Well, I suppose you know that sort of belief in terms of the promotion of the women's sport, you know, going into the qualifiers. How important do you think it is in terms of, you know, the likes of our students getting a mentor, you know, from industry or the sector that they're getting into, using the likes of the UU Connect or using the likes of the LinkedIn, you know, to kind of to get that arm around the shoulder, shall we say, you know, in terms of sort of saying, well, look, you know, this is where you are now, this is where you potentially might go, and you know that mentor can be there to support you. Do you think, Julie, that's something that is important?
Yeah, I think that's crucial. You know, a lot of jobs you see advertised, yes, they may have a list of qualifications that you need, but a lot of the time it's who you know, that helps you get those opportunities. And if you reach out, you know, as you say, on those different platforms, you know, there'll always be people there to help and support you and to help guide you and, you know, to point you in the right direction. And as Marissa says, you know, sometimes all it takes is that one person to put their arm around you and, you know, to help you. And, you know, you never know where you might end up. You know, I'm sure if you asked the 3 of us, you know, 20 years ago, where would we be now? You know, we would never have imagined, you know, that our journeys would have been how they've been, you know, and I think that's crucially important for students, and especially at the moment, obviously with COVID and the impacts of that, you know, I think it's even more crucial now that you do reach out and you do connect with other people. And as I say, a lot of the time that's what helps you get your foot in the door into places that you might never have got in. Like I said, I did my placement here at Ulster University, and you know, I'm now, and I have a full-time job kind of 14, 15 years later off the back of that, you know, because I got my foot in the door through that. And at that stage, you know, it was completely voluntary. It was a 6-week placement. I didn't earn any money at all for it. But, you know, look what the outcome has been.
Sorry, it wouldn't let me unmute there. I think, I mean, you've raised a point there in terms of obviously the benefits of work experience and developing those networks, and as you say, getting your foot in the door. In Northern Ireland, we're very small, you know, when you look at things, and that obviously makes the achievement that you have, you know, so far so good, you know, have achieved. Can I come to you, Sarah, then, in terms of just asking about, you know, obviously, you know, Julie had said there about working for those 5-6 weeks, you know, it was unpaid. You know, clearly sacrifices have had to have been made. You mentioned about, you know, getting the bus out, you know, and even, you know, well, so Northern Ireland terms, when you were traveling to Ballymena, it wasn't so bad, you know. I think when you moved over, is it the M6 you must have been up and down, with all the joys that the M6 brings. Tell us a bit about how that sacrifice has now been rewarded, you know, in terms of where you're at now.
I think when it's happening, you never really, all you want to do is play football for us anyway. So at the time when you're doing all these things, you never really think, it's more my parents, they're sacrificing driving me up and down the road, things like that there. But when it comes now, I think back to all those times when my dad had me in Belfast on a Saturday and a Sunday for all those weekends. And now I look back and think, what would have happened if my dad couldn't drive and things. You might not have never ever played. And so of course I'm really grateful for all them, or even the people at Ballymena that used to drive me up and down to Blackie after a session. It's all those little like sacrifices they made for me in order to ensure that I do the best that I can do. And for many a year, I never really had much success. Like it's only when I've come to my late 25s, like when I moved to England, that started all this sacrifice over the years. You start to get the benefit of it. So of course you love playing, but you end up playing because you love the social side, you love your mates, you love the people that you play with. But for a long time, there's no real success that you get from it until really the last 10 years. In England, like I've been quite successful in when I first joined for Sunderland. We won the old Premier League 3 times. We got to the Women's Super League, like things like that. But all my life, I never won a trophy. And it's only when those moments happen that you think, oh, this is why I play and this is why you do all the things you do. And I think recently that's been what's been amazing, because me, Julie, Marissa, Ashley, all of us probably would have retired in the next couple of years. And we had nothing to show really for our Northern Ireland career other than a lot of caps, more losses than wins. But I feel now we can retire happy, and that we've left a legacy for the kids coming through, that we're the first ones to do this. And I think when it comes to that, we can like retire happy in that we've achieved something, and all the sacrifices over the years of unpaid leave and work, doing jobs that would suit football, like not having a penny to our names a lot of the time. I think now this has been achieved and we're going to the Euros. We're just hoping that then we've seen the benefits of it, and we've actually been successful for all the years graft that we've put in. So it's really exciting moving forward, that every little session, everything you do extra, it's actually paying off finally, because there's a lot of time when we did a lot extra and got nothing for it. And so I think now it's really great that we're seeing the benefit of it, that all those sacrifices are starting to show.
We talk to our students, and I'm going to hand over to the students in a minute. I appreciate I'm hogging this, and when I heard you guys were coming on, I was straight in there. I wanted to host it. I said I wouldn't hog it, but I am hogging it unashamedly. So we talk to our students about resilience, and you guys, as you said, more losses than wins. Thinking about throwing in the towel, but that resilience now is coming and paying off, and it's paying off in bucket loads. And I think in the build-up, as the build-up starts to happen and the excitement starts to build, there's a few more feathers in your caps yet, before you retire, please. Thank you very much. So just, I think, hopes and dreams are on your shoulders, and that's a big ask really at the end of the day. How do you cope with the pressure now moving forward?
To be honest, I don't think we feel any pressure really. Like when we go to these Euros next summer, if we do anything good within the Euros, we're going to be like, everybody will look at us as great forever. Like I feel like we probably thrive on it all our lives. We've been fighting a losing battle. Like we've never had these opportunities to be part of something as great as this. And I think as long as in the next year we'll have a really good build up, I think the only thing that will stop us from thriving is maybe just not having experience playing in front of big crowds, things like that. But we've got a year to prepare for that. And I just think there's no pressure whatsoever us going to the Euros. I just feel it'll be such an occasion that we can remember forever. And like I've said this many a times, like I've got a 3-year-old, Marissa's got a little 2-year-old boy. And when I play now, the only thing I think about is what would Harper think? Like, what's she going to think of me? So if we go play if we play in front of 70,000 at England, get beat 6-0, to be honest, we'll have did the best we can. And I just think, imagine that experience to pass on to her in a couple of years' time, to say, look, you were there that day, look what we did. And I think that's almost bigger I know for me anyway, than what the results are, what the achievement is, because I know that we're leaving a legacy for other little girls coming through, and that's one of the best things we could ever do. So that we'll just thrive on it. Well, I hope we do. So
yeah, Norman, you're on.
Sorry, I couldn't get my mute button off there. It seems to be a delay here. Sorry, go ahead,
Sorry,
Marissa.
Norman, just on that, just off the back of what Sarah said, like what you'll get from us is we will go out there and we will die for each other, and we'll die for the green jersey. And no matter what happens in any of those games, you bet that you'll see that, you know, you've seen the resilience that we've shown on the pitch, and, you know, every single person who's on the pitch and the full squad will be there to give everything. So as Sarah said, it's going to be more about, you know, inspiring the next generation of young girls and boys in Northern Ireland, you know, not to just get into sport and get into football, but to believe in themselves, and, you know, to believe in themselves in every aspect of their life. Because again, no matter what you do, you're going to have lots of setbacks. You're going to have people telling you you're not good enough. You're going to have people telling you you're good enough, you know, so you have to just ignore the negativity and make sure you look inside yourself and believe in yourself. And no matter what you do, you need to just give it your all, because you will eventually, you know, get the benefits of that. And as Julie and Max says, you know, we've been together playing since we were, you know, 16, 17, and now we're in our 30s, and we've just accomplished the greatest thing that we could never imagine doing this and reaching a major finals, but we've done it, and we've done it through sheer hard work and belief, and having that resilience as a squad and people. So yeah, next year will be an exciting time for everybody, I think.
Absolutely. There are a few questions and comments coming in the sideboard, and I see Glenda's turned her camera on, which is really just a sign to tell me to shut up and let others get a word in the edgeways, tell the truth.
Actually, Norman, sorry, I'm talking now. I really just wanted to come in there because I think what Marissa has said is absolutely amazing, and it's almost emotional just to hear sort of what you've said. And, you know, I guess if I can be really button in and ask the girls before you move on, how did you actually deal with those disappointments when it didn't go right, when you weren't good enough, or you felt that? How did you actually deal with that?
For me, sorry, Marissa. For me, Glenda, when people have told me, you know, I'm not good enough, I think that kind of, because of my competitive nature, you know, if somebody tells me I can't do something, then I go out to prove, you know, to kind of prove them wrong. And that's kind of always been my mentality. You know, if somebody says you're not good enough, or you can't do that, or whatever it is, even teachers in school saying, oh, you're just average or whatever, you know, that's always kind of inspired me to go on and push myself even more, you know, to prove those people wrong. And that's kind of the way I've always reacted to that. I know everybody reacts to it differently, and sometimes it does get you down, but I think, you know, you have to look inside yourself and put a lot of hard work in, because ultimately, as Marissa said, you know, it comes down to a lot of hard work, and then you need that self-belief. And as we've talked about, if you can talk to other people and get other people, you know, to kind of bounce ideas off, and maybe to put their arm around you, as we said earlier, I think that definitely helps as well.
Yeah, and Glenda, just on that, like, you're on mute.
No, sorry.
Sorry. Just on that, like, surround yourself with people who get the best out of you. Like, we've, as I said, we've been together from we were very young, and, you know, we've had so many ups and downs within our careers with Northern Ireland. I mean, every single time you wear that green shirt, I mean, you can't even explain the pride that you feel walking onto that pitch. But we have got each other through all their moments. Like, we've cried together, we've laughed together, like, we've experienced so much together. And, you know, no matter what you're feeling, you know, the player next to you, the person next to you is feeling exactly the same thing. And, you know, I truly believe, because of the squad of players that we have, that's why we've overcame all the challenges and got to where we are today, because the squad we have there's no other squad like it. And I truly believe that with the best squad in the world.
Sarah, did you want to come in and say something there?
It's just very similar to everybody else, I think, because it's a mindset. And I think when you're younger, you do, when somebody says something that disappoints you, you let it affect you a lot. But it's either going to make you or break you, to be honest. So I think as you get older, the disappointments, you always realize that there's a reason for them. So you think of us against Norway. Of course, we were so disappointed because we thought we had improved loads with straight away, and then we get beat 6-0. But at the end of the day, that disappointment was like eventually the reason for, there's always a reason for it. And I think once you find out the reason why at that time you were so disappointed, I think then you can build on it and be able to like improve and do whatever it is. But there's all like always say it now, anything that ever happens is always for a reason. So you talk about like Julie when she hurt her knee, when like even anytime I hurt my knee, now I know the reasoning behind that, because it was a time in my life when I needed to think about something else, or I needed to concentrate on something else. And I think for young people, especially, if anything happens to you that's disappointing, there is a reason for it. And I know you don't know now, but maybe in a couple of years' time, you will know the reason why that happened at that specific time. And I think that's what people just need, like a stronger mindset, and that they need to try and understand that. But
it's amazing lessons from all three of you. And I know throughout this Future Skills Week, we have had so many students, like I've been bowled over with students who said, I was told at school that I wasn't good enough. I was told that I could never do that. And how do I deal with that? And here's what I've done. And some of the lessons coming through absolutely reflects what you ladies have said. And it is emotional and it is refreshing. But Norman, I'm conscious of time. I'm going to hand back to you because I know there's some questions there that students have asked in the chat box. So I'll hand back to you.
Super, and then we'll open it up to anybody that wants to put their camera on, take themselves off mute. There was a couple of things there. I mean, there's obviously the kind of, yes, hopefully there will be plenty of Northern Ireland fans behind you. As Glenda will tell you, I've my leave booked I think it's from the 7th of July to I think it's the 27th. So I will certainly be over at some point. So again, well done sticking at it. Great examples of perseverance paying off. There was one there in terms of, new teams starting out. I mean, there will hopefully and almost inevitably be a lift here in terms of, bringing Northern Ireland women's football, onto that global stage, and teams will develop, as a result of that. What advice would you give new teams starting off, and even within a context of sport or within work and life, when a new person comes into a team, how do you develop? I know you all have that same passion for football, but how do you, what skills do you employ to make sure that the team dynamic works?
Norman, for me, I'll just say quickly that if there's teams out there just setting up, because I know through my role in work, we have a lot of females wanting to start up teams. But my advice would be, get the girls together and focus on the social aspect of it, and focus on the fun side of it, and focus on, getting the girls to training and just enjoying themselves. Success comes after. Success comes whenever you build a team and you build relationships. So just quickly, my advice would be to just make sure that when the girls are together, they're getting to know each other. They're obviously learning while they're training, and just provide that kind of social aspect where they're enjoying it, and they're because some of them could be parents, some of them could be working a lot, and what we try to achieve going to training is it's 1 hour, 2 hours away from our hectic life, to just go and be around friends and enjoy the sport. So yeah, for me that would be important.
Yeah, I'll follow that up, because to me, Marissa's just said the word relationships are key in any kind of successful team. Nobody achieves anything in this life on their own, and you need to rely on your teammates and all be there for each other. And as Marissa says, the social element and the fun element is a massive part of it. As she says, we've been playing for 15 odd years now together, and as Marissa's already said, I think that's a big part of the success that we have within our squad, that we are such a tight unit, and that everybody helps each other, and everybody has their own sets of strengths and weaknesses, but working together as a team, you can help each other with that.
Okay, there was an important word there in terms of the developing the relationships, and it's back to what Kenny had said when he first kind of come in. You know, I was assuming that it was the changing room, you know, to put his arm around you and saying about trust. How is that trust developed and fostered then? And if you were advising some of our students in terms of going out into the workplace, how do they manage to develop that trust? What are the components that allow that to happen? Either or.
Well, I think for us it was we were all ready for like something different in that we hadn't been that successful. We were like a crossroads, as Marissa says, a lot of us were. And I just feel like somebody coming in and saying, trust me, and things will change. For us, it was more that way. And then it was really just, so in football, it's all about like following Kenny's philosophy. So straight away, he sent us, I think it was a 12-page philosophy of his play. So whenever we first read it, I think all of us were a bit like, oh, what is going on here? What are we in for? But although, like, of course, we all read it, it was really only when we met him and we started to work with him that when we were doing things in the first camp, you could see people trying, like players that maybe never were looked over before because they didn't fit the style of play, were now excelling and getting better and things like that there. And I do think at the start, of course, we trusted him, but if the results weren't coming, who knows what position we'd be in at the minute? Would we still have the same trust for Kenny? I don't know if we would, but we were getting hidings every week. But what's happened in Kenny's favour is successes came. So now anything he says, we trust him. No matter what he says, we'll go and do it tenfold. And when people go into the working environment, it's the same sort of thing. It's like when your boss asks you to do something, what I've got now, if I don't do it and something happens, then I know that I need to trust what they're saying in order to make my life as easy as possible, because I'm in a teaching environment, I'm in a further education college, so I know that I trust my boss to keep me so that I've got an easier lifestyle, and that my working life isn't going to be sitting up to 7 o'clock every night. Whenever he tells me you need to do this at a specific time, I do it at that specific time, because then it means life's so much easier for me. Because when people go into their careers in the future, they'll soon see that if they don't do what they're meant to do when they're doing it, their life's a lot harder. And I think that way, it's about trusting the people that are telling you what you need to do. And then hopefully you can thrive and things get a lot easier when that happens. So that's what I think anyway.
Brilliant, thank you, Sarah. One of the questions that's come in here, and it's a great one. You know, on days where you don't feel your best, what motivates you to keep going?
I suppose, you know, now obviously it's easy to keep motivated because, you know, we have a goal of a European finals next summer, you know, to aim towards. But as we've said, you know, throughout this talk, you know, there's been many years and many games, you know, that we've had disappointments from. And then sometimes you're thinking, why do I keep doing this to myself? You know, because as Sarah said, you know, we're taking unpaid leave, or we're using our holidays, you know, for work or whatever it is. You know, we're out of pocket, you know, to go and play for Northern Ireland over all those years, and we weren't gaining a whole lot from it. But I think ultimately you see what we've gained now, because all those years of hard work have culminated in us qualifying for our first ever major tournament. And again, it's a mindset thing. You know, you have to keep pushing yourself. If you have a long-term goal, and you know, within the last couple of years, that became a realistic goal for us. Yes, over many years, we always would have loved to qualify for a major tournament, but we didn't ever really see that as being a realistic target. And in the last few years, as Marissa said, with the journey that we've been on, it did become a realistic target. And as soon as Ashley had scored that goal and against Wales, and we knew, you know, that we could compete with those kind of teams, then we knew that we could get ourselves into the playoff position, and that's what we did. And you know, I think that's key, that you keep sticking at what you want to do, and you know, keep believing in yourself and keep pushing yourself to do it.
Yeah, like I mean, you can't, every day you can't be your best, you know, so you have to just accept that some days you will have off days, you will have days that, you know, sometimes life is so busy. You get tired, and sometimes it's tough to get up and go and do your gym session or go and do your day's work or whatever you got to do. But you have to accept that those days are inevitable. They're going to happen, and just find ways that work for you to overcome them. Like, I find if I have a day like that, like, and this probably sounds so silly, but if I have a day that I wake up and I'm feeling tired and sluggish, I make sure that I have a nice breakfast, drink plenty of water throughout the day. Like, food always makes you feel better. So, have a nice dinner that evening. Make sure you go and do your session, because if there's, say, on a Tuesday morning where I have to get up at 6 a.m. to go do my gym session, and sometimes can be really difficult, but I always find when I get up and I go do it, after it, I feel so much better. But for me, it's just accepting that you're going to have those days, and just figure out a way that you overcome them. And if that's getting the earphones in and taking a walk for a few miles, or going to see, I mean, there's amazing places in Northern Ireland where you can just drive to and take a walk. We have a place beside where I live, it's just down the bottom of the street, Jordanstown, beside the sea, and there's an amazing long walk, along there, where you can just get the headphones in and just gather your thoughts, and, a bit of positive self-talk, and, tomorrow's going to be better. So yeah, it's just accepting that and finding ways to overcome it.
Okay, we have a question in here, and this one's a belter. Do you have a superstition that you do before you play a game? Either individually or as a team, or, if you want to sort of not divulge what your superstition is. If your superstition is that by divulging it, it'll hex it. But do any of you have a superstition that you kind of stick to before a game?
I wouldn't say I really have any superstitions as such, but I generally follow kind of the same routine before a play. I know a few of the girls, they have what they call their coffee club. So that's, I don't know whether it's a superstition for them or what Marissa is involved in that, but I don't really have a superstition, as I say. It's just I like to do the same things before a play. I kind of usually eat the same general pre-match meal and that kind of stuff, because I know that's what prepares me best to go and play.
Can I ask, Julie, what that meal is? It's not going to be steak and chips now, is it?
No, I usually eat, if we're playing in the evenings, I would eat a bigger lunch, and then I generally only have a bowl of cereal or a slice of toast and banana before the game. I don't like to eat heavy and before I play in the evening.
Marissa, what about you? Any superstitions or any routine thing that you do?
Well, Julie just spoke about it there, about the coffee club. So there's about 8 of us in the Northern Ireland team that have a coffee club. So before we leave the hotel to go to the match, we just gather around and take a shot of espresso. We started doing it about 2 years ago, and it's just something that's kind of grew, and it's something that we had a really good result in. Was it in Turkey, Julie? That we played. We had a really good result against Chinese Taipei, I think it was that game, and we scored a lot of goals. And just from that, we've just continued it. And yeah, that's.
Oh, I think have people froze. Oh, I think it's Marissa's froze just there. Okay, Sarah, what about you then?
Well, for Northern Ireland, I try not to have any, but with my club, every Sunday morning is very stressful because we share a car. There's 4 of us that drive up and down to London, places like that. So before every game, all of us have to see the same magpie. So we're like, and then we have to, but if we see the magpie, we usually do well. But it's funny because like the games we've played the best, the magpie is maybe like swooped down in front of the car and things like that there. So since that, like it's a bad time. The 4 of us in the car, 2 of them wear the exact same trainers all season long. There's a girl that's wore the same sports bra since like the start of the season. So there's a lot in our car. It's a very stressful morning. But for Northern Ireland, I try to not like start something because it causes me that much stress on a Sunday morning. I don't think I can deal with it if we start doing it for Northern Ireland as well. So, but
brilliant, Sarah. I love the one about the magpie. These all salute it and say, good morning, Mr. Magpie. How's the
But
wife
they
and
actually,
kids?
which is what I know, like there is the magpie.
Brilliant,
awful.
excellent. I
Awful.
love that. Okay. Says here from Lisa's putting the sidebar, I'm part of a team that's training for the Commonwealth Games for wheelchair basketball, and I found your advice very motivational. Brilliant. Okay. Says here, do you think it's possible for international students to work with the IFA or women's teams perhaps in training camps to improve the team to that kind of elite level? And maybe one will take offside, Osby, and maybe have a conversation, you know, with Julie. Oh, Marissa's back. There
Sorry,
you are.
overheated.
What do you like? Okay. LOL, Sarah. My husband's the same about the mic, but it's a classic, isn't it, in terms of that one? No, absolutely love it. Okay, we've about 10 minutes roughly left. I'm gonna open it up here for people to ask questions. Put their cameras on. I appreciate, you know, as host, I've hogged this. I don't unashamedly so. And so if there's anybody out there who would like to actually put their camera on, ask any questions from either Sarah, Julie, or Marissa, by all means, this is your opportunity to talk to the future European champions. They're all going to be shy now. There's Lynn. Lynn, how are you? There's Kathy. Hi, Kathy. Lynn, you're on mute. I can see your lips moving, but I'm not hearing anything.
Sorry about that. I was just saying you're amazing, absolutely amazing. You've blown me away. And as Glenda said earlier, it's so emotional listening to you. Just so well done. I was just wondering, you know, what sort of family support and work support do you have to be able to, you know, play football at that sort of international level?
Yeah, my family have been, you know, key. Obviously, as Sarah talked about her dad driving her up and down to Belfast, I'm from Larne, so the same thing applied to me whenever I was younger. My dad was up and down. You know, I played hockey actually for Ballymoney Hockey Club. So I used to play every Saturday up in Ballymoney, and then would have been in Belfast for Northern Ireland training every Sunday. So my dad was like a glorified taxi driver, and, you know, without him, you know, I definitely wouldn't be where I am now. And even thankfully at the time whenever I did my knee injury, my parents, so I was able to go private. Otherwise, you know, I still wouldn't be playing now, you know, and they're still crucial now. They call themselves my support team, you know, because they're still helping me, you know, to this day. And work support as well. You know, the university have been incredibly supportive of me, you know, to help give you that extra bit of time that you need to maybe leave or, you know, to help prepare. You know, we have quite a lot of camps throughout the year, you know, so I use all my holidays as well, you know, to go and play for Northern Ireland. But the support of both, you know, work colleagues and, you know, I thankfully actually received an email from the Vice Chancellor of the university whenever we qualified, which was incredible, you know, and it wasn't just the 2 lines of well done, Julie, you know, for your achievements. There was a full kind of 1-page email, you know, and it was fantastic to see him even taking the time out to do that, you know, because I'm sure he's not sending staff individual emails very often.
Great.
For me, I'm lucky in that my work are very supportive at the minute anyway. Once to see the dates for next year, I'm not sure, but so they've been, like, over the years I've never had really any issues. It's really just been trying to cover my lessons, things I got there. I think as well, because they're trying to promote women's football and trying to start academies, it's really benefited me because they can use me as the face of it in work. So they've been really, really good. In regard to, like, my family, I've got a 3-year-old, and my husband does literally everything. Like, he when I train every single night of the week with my club, and Damien literally looks after Harper full time. So I keep telling him it's only for a couple of years, and then something like this happens and I have to keep playing. But I couldn't play if it was, like, I know it's all soppy and that, but he's literally, Harper sees me hardly ever. And I'm so lucky that I've got him to be able to support and be able to like look after her all the time. So in order to keep going. So I'm so lucky I've got that support system here.
Yeah, just on that, what Max said, it's like I have a young son at home as well, and you know, if it wasn't for my partner being so good and you know looking after him as much as she does, then you know I wouldn't be able to play the way I do and train the way I do. And you know, it's tough for them as well, because we can be away, you know, 10 days at a time, and you know, Paula has her own work. She's working full time, and you know, she has her own hobbies and stuff. And whenever I'm away for the 10 days, you know, she has to make sure that she can kind of juggle everything without me being there. So thankfully, yeah, if it wasn't for the support of her, then yeah, I wouldn't be able to play. So thankfully she's very supportive and loves football and loves to see us do well. And just as Mac and Julie, you know, spoke about when they were younger, you know, family is so important in terms of, you know, bringing us places where we need to go to, in every hole in the hedge in Northern Ireland, you know, to play our sport. And thankfully, you know, our parents drove and had cars and were able to do that. But yes, family support and is massive. It's just massive. You wouldn't be able to play it without it. And luckily, yeah, we have that support system behind us.
Anybody else, any questions then before we wrap up here? I know, Lisa, you'd mentioned there I couldn't quite get in your mic there. So thanks for finding the talk really refreshing and uplifting. So much wisdom, great advice that we can apply to our daily lives. Absolutely. Fab. Dude luck. I'm sure that's good luck. Very good. Okay. Is there anybody else? This is your last. You've literally got a minute or 2 minutes. If you have any burning questions, either put them in the GAWA. Somebody's putting the hashtag GAWA. Anybody, this is your opportunity to ask any questions that you might have. Okay, question time going once, question time going twice, question time going for the third time. Sold to the woman in the feather boa. Okay, folks, I just want to share my screen here sort of briefly with you in terms of the information. There we go. Hopefully that's not working. Give me 1 second. Let me see. Share. That's the squad. This is the one I want to share. Okay, so in terms of just a few of the things that are happening tomorrow, there's a couple of sessions still to run tomorrow, and we'll put the links in the chat bar in 2 seconds. But these are the ones that I really want to share just as a reminder. Okay. Recognize any faces there? This one I absolutely love, but this is my absolute favorite. Okay, just the sheer joy of, you know, quite like this one too, but no, that one there is my absolute favorite. So it is of all you guys. I'll stop sharing that now, and I'll put the links to the other sessions that are happening tomorrow just as we wrap up, and I'll let you ladies crack on. There's no words that can say, you know, in terms of the congratulations so far, you know, but it's all to play for now, really. You know, you've reached that pinnacle, but you know, it's to use a kind of mountain climbing analogy, you've reached that crest, and now there's even the bigger crest ahead, and this is where digging deep really, you know, comes into play, and sort of between now and the 6th of July, you know, it's you know, the hard work and the craft is going to have to be put in again. So whilst I'm sure you have celebrated the triumph so far, you know, I'm 100% confident that you're absolutely dedicated in terms of what's coming next, and I just really kind of, you know, on a personal note, I want to really thank you for today, and on a note from everybody here in the very tiny sort of 6 counties of the north of the island of Ireland. You know, hopes and dreams are what you're taking forward, and hopefully as we come out of the pandemic and things open up again and travel starts, you know, you will certainly have, you know, the army behind you, you know, in terms of, you know, taking those hopes and dreams forward. So ladies, thank you very, very, very much for joining us this afternoon. I really want to appreciate